Good afternoon. This is Mr. Wagner sitting in Mr. Dawson's chair. Going to go over the quiz that you're going to be taking this Friday. First part that I wanted you all to look at is some of the challenges that immigrants faced, and talking about cultural and language barriers, um, housing shortages, political corruption. But there were a lot of jobs available, so keep that in mind. Big business, some examples of big business. You've got oil, you've got railroads, and you've got steel. And you can see steel here used to frame a building. So those are the three big examples of big business. When we talk about Rockefeller, John D. Rockefeller's strategy to control the oil industry, that's a monopoly. And I just wanted to show this cartoon here. This political cartoon is, again, the octopus, and it's reaching out and it's grabbing, you can see that it's taking control of the oil wells and the government, total control of that industry. When we talk about the growth of industry, there's four reasons. One of them is access to raw materials, and we went over what raw materials are: lumber, coal, lack of financial resources. That would obviously not work for the reasons why industry grew. And when you see the word financial, that just means money. New inventions, available workforce. So when you see an organizer like this that says growth of industry, the factors that led to it, access to raw materials, you had that immigration in, so available workforce, new inventions. But what's not a reason or not a factor is the lack of financial resources. There was money out there. So keep that in mind. When we talk about the captains of industry, one of those rags to riches individuals or rag to riches stories, success stories, was Andrew Carnegie, who was a Scottish immigrant. And looking down here, you can see it says Scottish immigrant. And again, steel. And this right here showing the blasting furnace, this was called the Bessemer method. And the Bessemer process was taking steel. It was a new way to make steel far more efficiently, quicker, stronger steel. So this was a way to mass produce steel. And Carnegie had to go way over to England to learn this. When we think about or we hear about Andrew Carnegie and in his expertise in big business, the steel industry, remember what we learned about how we learned early in the year those cities and their industry, and we learned that Pittsburgh was the home of the steel industry. And I just included over here a picture of a steel building being framed up because we know that in the um, late 1890s, 1900s, urbanization, which means crowded cities, more people, they're going to start building upward, building vertical buildings in the skyscrapers, and that's where Carnegie steel is going to be used. And then we have another captain of industry, Cornelius Vanderbilt, really big with the railroads, and also he was big with shipping. And he's going to pass away in 1877, so he's going to be his descendants will take over. But before that, he was really one of the biggest captains of industry with shipping, and then later he's going to go to railroads. Another captain of industry is Rockefeller, John D. Rockefeller, and you can see the oil wells in the background. And he's going to again have that monopoly on oil. He's going to try to control the whole oil industry. And one of the company's name was Standard Oil. So those are the captains of industry. When we talk about some of the other vocabulary words, you're going to see a word, mechanization, which, just to break it down, it means machines are going to replace human labor. And I have somebody here out in the field cutting using a scythe. And then we have this invention over here. You don't see the whole thing, but it's called the reaper. And that was a mechanical device used to efficiently cut wheat or whatever kind of crop you had out in the field. So that's going to increase. These machines are going to increase production, and it's going to reduce the need for human labor as far as it's going to make the work that much easier. When we think of urbanization, look at how crowded it is. So the opposite of that is rural, where you'd be out in the country, but you can see how crowded the cities were. So urbanization, especially with the huge influx of immigration coming in, and this led to some problems, some challenges that immigrants faced, and one of them was housing. Oftentimes they were forced to live in these overcrowded apartment complexes called tenements, and you can see just really, really terrible conditions. And then you also had another term that we talked about, ghettos, which is a section of a city based on culture. And Mr. Dawson described this really well in class, where folks would feel more comfortable, being around folks who share their culture, share their languages and common beliefs and all that. So you would have sections of a city that might be a Jewish section, an Italian section, and then there's a picture here of the 5 Points, which was an Irish section, and later that became an Italian section, Little Italy of New York. When we look at political bosses, we talked about these were individuals that some people said they were corrupt. Some folks think that they helped immigrants, but really they were looking for votes. So they'd provide immigrants with money, jobs, housing, again, all to get those votes. We have the word corruption in here, which means dishonest practices, and that's what a political machine is, where again you're taking money for the votes. And then increase in industrial development. A lot of that was because of the railroads, and you can see that that's going to increase communication and better access to raw materials. And then you can take the raw materials, once they've been turned into a finished product, they're going to go back and be sold to markets. Finally, we're getting to the last part, the inventions. Thomas Edison did the light bulb, or invented the light bulb, and then Alexander Graham Bell with the telephone. And this concludes the quick review, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm going to make a quiz for you too to do as a review, so you're going to be good to go for this quiz on Friday. Okay? Thank you, Mr. Wagner.
Thank you, Chief.
Shut down.